Welcome everyone to Coin New Yen Review channel. Before we dive into today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so more people can discover us. Enjoy the show. I sipped a single cup of coffee, yet a stunning stranger pulled me away to get married. He handed me a dowry of 88 million, just as he urged me to prepare for a move. A sudden phone call interrupted us. Then with a grim face, he stared at me and demanded to know who I really was. That morning, I pushed open the coffee shop door, paid the bill, and settled at an empty table. I leaned back in my chair gazing out the window. A young woman approached clad in a tailored professional outfit standing before me. Her features were refined, her figure tall and striking, curves accentuated by sleek black stockings and long legs. She stood no shorter than 1.76 meters. Sipping my coffee, I looked at her with puzzled eyes. In my memory, I had no recollection of this person. I didn't expect you to be not only punctual but so early. She removed her sunglasses, fixing her gaze on me. I blinked, saying nothing. This woman must have mistaken me for someone else. Just as I decided to ignore her, her next words shook me to my core. You should already know my situation. If there's no issue, let's head across the street to get the certificate. She pointed to the Civil Affairs Bureau outside the window, then grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the door. Even with all my worldly experience, I couldn't help but feel stunned. Are women these days really so bold? Grabbing a random stranger in a coffee shop to get married. She paused but didn't let go of my hand. What, still confused? It's not exactly confusion. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, thinking to myself, I don't even know you. Good, no issues then. I'm in a hurry. I have a meeting later. Let's get the certificate first, then sign the agreement. I thought about resisting, but on second thought, wasn't this a perfect chance to experience something new? I wouldn't lose anything, and this girl was quite attractive, so I went along with it. Since it was early in the morning, the Civil Affairs Bureau was nearly empty. In 15 minutes, we held two bright red marriage certificates. I glanced at the document, thinking Shen Qingji's name sounded rather pleasant. And she was beautiful too. But still, a gorgeous girl like her choosing a flash marriage was unexpected. After getting the certificate, we returned to the coffee shop. She slid two copies of an agreement across the table. To ensure we get along harmoniously in the future, we should sign a postnuptial agreement. This was drafted by my lawyer. Take a look. Any issues or additions needed? I took the postnuptial agreement from Shen Qingju. After skimming it, my brows furrowed slightly. This agreement felt strangely unreal to me. Just as I hesitated to speak, Shen Qingju met my gaze. You know, impressed for time. Speak plainly if you have something to say. Seeing my confused expression, a flicker of doubt stirred in Shen Qingji's heart. This postnuptial agreement was reviewed by Lawyer Bai. She had personally gone over it. I opened my mouth to speak, but Shen Qingju raised a hand to interrupt, saying, wait, we're already married. To avoid raising suspicions, we should use more intimate terms. You can call me Qingju or Juju. Qingju. I followed her lead and adjusted my address. This postnuptial agreement isn't quite what I expected. Aside from not sharing a bed, I can't find any terms restricting me. This doesn't seem like what I've seen in TV dramas. Are you sure you didn't grab the wrong one? Shen Qingju stared at me in disbelief, her expression oddly intense. You're a living, breathing person. We're equals in this. This is a postnuptial agreement, not a contract of servitude. And watch less TV in the future. I mumbled a sheepish acknowledgement, looking at Shen Qingju across from me. I couldn't help but think she reminded me of my sister, because Li Zhu also loved to lecture me so seriously, with that same earnest tone. After signing the agreement, Shen Qingju pulled out a bank card and placed it on the coffee table. This is for your living expenses. I'll deposit 100,000 into this card every month. I was taken aback. This woman was outrageously generous. A proper young, beautiful, and wealthy lady. Shen Qingju then proceeded to hand me a household card, house keys, and car keys, arranging everything like a seasoned boss. With calm precision, just as I prepared to come clean, her phone rang. The voice of her assistant Su Jing came through. saying the person she was supposed to marry was stuck in traffic and would arrive late. Hearing this, Shen Xingju realized something was wrong. She looked at me calmly and asked Muje, "Don't you owe me an explanation? Who are you really?" I met Shen Qingju's serious gaze, and with a slight smile said, "In your new husband." I unfolded the marriage certificate, pointing to the red-tinted photo of us. "Isn't this our official certificate? Don't you remember?" Though my finger rested on the certificate, my eyes never left hers, catching every shift in her emotions. This was a rare drama unfolding before me. A plot so wild even romance novels couldn't dream it up, and I'd stumbled right into it. Naturally, I wanted to savor every moment. At that instant, I found myself eagerly anticipating her reaction. Would she explode in anger, cursing me out, or write a viral post online, rallying countless women to her cause? Shen Xingju saw the amusement on my face, but only furrowed her brow slightly and said calmly, "What I mean is, I mistook you for someone else earlier. Why didn't you say something?" I wanted to clarify, "But weren't you the one in a rush, dragging me to get the certificate?" I spread my hands, speaking the plain truth. My innocent expression and teasing tone were somehow a bit infuriating, though I'd done it on purpose. I got caught up in the rush. Faced with my retort, Shen Xingju didn't lose her composure, but realized her own mistake. Everything had happened to perfectly. Who'd have thought I'd have my household registry on me? But since it's happened, we need to address it. I watched her pull out her phone, calling her assistant to postpone a meeting. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, grinning mischievously. "If you want a divorce, I can go with you to take another trip, but it's too late. There's a cooling off period for divorce now. We'd have to wait a month, and I don't have that much time." Shen Xingju glanced toward the Civil Affairs Bureau, shaking her head, saying even a week she couldn't afford, let alone a month. The Shen family was pressing her too hard. Her words made me drop my playful demeanor, because her repeated calm responses caught me completely off guard. This woman seemed different from the typical fair-like girls I imagined. I propped my chin, gazing at her refined features, lost in thought. "Why are you staring at me like that? Is there something on my face?" Shen Xingju asked, puzzled, even touching her face. "No, I just didn't expect you to stay so calm in a situation like this. You didn't yell or accuse me. In the years since I returned to the country, my life had only one woman, my ex-girlfriend Wu Xiaodan. But in my years abroad, I'd met all kinds of women. Yet Shen Xingju was the most unique. Yelling or blaming you wouldn't help. It would only stir conflict and waste time. And while you bear some responsibility, the greater fault lies with me." I looked into her eyes and sighed. "Shen Xingju, you're something special." I couldn't deny. This strikingly rational woman had piqued my interest. She had no time for my compliments. Her brow furrowed. Grabbing my hand, she said, "Muje, I'm out of options. Will you help me? Just play along for a month." Looking at this pleading, vulnerable woman, I couldn't help but think of Wu Xiaoding, my ex-girlfriend who could perform love so convincingly. She too had once seemed so delicate and pitiable. Women are born the best actors, especially beautiful ones like her. I glanced down at her, holding my hand, and asked if this was about a family marriage alliance. Only a forced marriage like that could drive a wealthy woman like her to seek my help. Yes, a man I don't want to marry. I lifted her wrist, holding it up. Can I refuse? I didn't agree or decline, but kicked the ball back to her, testing how this woman would respond. Shen Xingju met my gaze. Our eyes locked in silence. I could tell, at that moment, a fierce struggle raged within her. After a pause, she exhaled and nodded, saying yes. "That's your right." Her words fell, and she let go of my hand, preparing to leave. I gave a faint smile. As she turned, I grabbed her wrist. "Shen Xingju, helping you comes at a price. I'm the type who responds to kindness, not force. If she'd been overbearing, using her status to threaten or coerce me, I'd have fought back to the end. But who could have guessed she'd defy expectations? Not only did she lack the arrogance of a rich woman, she was remarkably reasonable. That alone won me over. Playing along with her seemed like a fine choice. I just wondered, what expressions my mother and sister would have when they learned I'd gotten married. Hearing my agreement, Shen Qingju froze slightly, almost in disbelief, but managed a faint smile. The person Su Jincheng had arranged was a recent graduate from Lin University. She'd planned for a 5-year short-term marriage to deal with the family alliance and avoid trouble for those 5 years. But this unexpected husband, with an unclear background, could resolve the issue with that Jincheng heir and divorce in a month. I released Shen Qingju's hand, sat back down and said, "So tell me, what do I need to do next? Tomorrow meet my mom first, then in a few days meet my father and my betrothed." Mu Zhe, does that work? Sure, that's fine, but why meet your parents separately? Her schedule didn't bother me. The question was why her parents were met separately. My parents are divorced, Shen Qingju said flatly, without a hint of emotion. I cleared my throat and apologized. They separated long ago. I have a meeting to attend, so I want see you home. Shen Qingju glanced at her watch and stood. Since I'd agreed to cooperate, we could discuss the rest at home tonight. You go handle your work. I can manage on my own. I took a sip of the coffee on the table. Shen Qingju glanced at my inexpensive clothes. I'll take you shopping for clothes after work. Let's talk tonight. I'm heading to work. Watching her retreating figure, a smile tugged at my lips. I never imagined I'd flash marry, let alone be kept by a rich woman. But Shen Qingju, this intriguing woman, was genuinely fascinating. After all, the Mu family's heir being kept would be explosive news anywhere. I took a sip of my cappuccino and glanced at the WeChat notification on my phone, muttering to myself, Yashui Bay 1058. I didn't expect Shen Qingju to live there too. Perfect, I could swing by to settle into my place this afternoon. I couldn't gauge Shen Qingju's wealth, but I didn't care to dig deeper. It was just a month of playing along. Then we'd go our separate ways. I finished my cappuccino in one gulp, marveling at the lavish life of being kept. It was quite the novel experience. First, I'd hit the docks for some fries, then move my things. Standing one, gathered the marriage certificate and the bank card and keys from my wealthy wife, then left the coffee shop. At 6 in the evening, as I prepared to head home, I got a call from someone marked Gold Coin Bunny. My wealthy wife Shen Qingju spoke. I remember correcting your address this morning. I smirked with a playful edge and teased my dear wife. What's your command? For some reason, a whim struck me to flirt with my new bargain bin wife and see how she'd handle such a cheesy title. Shen Qingju sounded slightly exasperated. No need to be so sappy. Tone it down. No commands. Just reminding you about shopping for clothes this morning. I then recalled she had mentioned that before we parted. Checking the time on my phone, I asked if she'd gotten off work. I left early today. Shen Qingju stepped out of her car and said gently, meet me at Longhang Plaza. Well, link up there. Leaving early, this Shen Qingju. This rich woman was a workaholic. From her rushed demeanor this morning, I knew she was busy, but not to this extent. It was nearly 8, and she'd just gotten off, and that was an early day. I suddenly felt her wealth was well-earned. Alright, I agreed readily. After hanging up, I hailed a taxi to the destination. Half an hour later, we met at Longhang Plaza. Shen Qingju dragged me straight to a slew of luxury stores for a shopping spree. I became an emotionless clothing rack. Every outfit she liked on me was promptly packed up by the staff. Utterly ruthless. Perhaps because shopping is a woman's instinct, Shen Qingju showed no signs of stopping, still pulling me to more stores. I eyed the piles of bags in my hands, tugging at my lips. I said helplessly, big sister, that's enough. I can barely carry more. For the first time, I viscerally felt what it meant to be kept. I laughed and groaned, hearing my address. Shen Qingju stopped, looking displeased. She asked what I called her. Big sister, I'm only a year older than you. She'd been fine with my earlier cheesy terms, but women are sensitive about age. Seeing Shen Qingju bristle, I realized my mistake. Quickly backtracking, slip of the tongue. Qingju, that's better. Shen Qingju huffed, her expression softening. Can't carry it, leave it there. The staff will send it back later. I could wear a different outfit every day and not repeat for a month. I set down the bags I was carrying. You work hard for your money. There's no need to be so extravagant. Since we're here, we might as well get everything shows included. Shen Qingju smoothed her hair, saying that since I'd entered her family, she naturally couldn't let me feel neglected. I stood there momentarily stunned. Her words seemed to make some sense, but something about them felt off. As someone being kept by a rich woman for the first time, I couldn't quite articulate why. Shen Qingju glanced at me standing there dazed, grabbed my wrist and kept walking forward. Enough, just listen to me. Let's go buy a few watches next. Her tone left no room for argument, carrying the commanding air of a domineering CEO's love. 2 hours later, Shen Qingju laid in with our haul, walked contentedly to the counter, handed a membership card to the clerk. The clerk took Shen Qingju's card, while swiping it, looked at me with envy, saying I was truly fortunate. Your wife is not only wealthy, but so willing to spend on you. Another clerk nearby chimed in. Indeed, you're so lucky. I only dare dream of such things. At that moment, I didn't want to say a word. If this were my family's business, I'd have fired these two for their meddling comments. But I didn't know. This actually was my mother's business. There's too much stuff. Have it delivered to my place. Shen Qingju took out a pen and fluidly wrote an address on a note, handing it to the clerk. At the underground parking lot, Shen Qingju walked beside me, catching my gaze, and asked why I was staring at her again. My light makeup isn't smudged, is it? I shook my head, saying helplessly, our marriage is only for a month. There's no need to go this far. Shen Qingju was too good to me. So good it felt almost unreal. Her spending spree just now must have cost well over $1 million. This wasn't the attitude one has toward a contract husband. Didn't you say it would come at a price? Shen Qingju looked genuinely confused, sizing me up and down. I was just saying that offhand, and you actually took it seriously. I hadn't even taken my own words seriously, yet Shen Qingju had. Since you've entered my family, I naturally can't let you feel neglected. If you prove useful, I could extend your contract for a year. Shen Qingju spoke so earnestly, but something about it sounded strange to me. Extending a contract I understood, but useful felt like a predatory phrase. Useful in what way exactly? Well, I was still reeling. Shen Qingju added that it wasn't much money. No need to worry. Besides, when you're out and about, you represent my reputation. Before she finished speaking, a few drunken men appeared nearby. Pretty lady, why don't you have a drink with us, sweetheart? The drunks staggered closer to Shen Qingju. One even reached out with a lecherous hand, eyeing her while trying to cop a feel. Just as I prepared to step in, the figure beside me moved first. The drunk who reached out let out a scream. I saw Shen Qingju twist his arm to restrain him, then flip him over her shoulder, slamming him to the ground. The drunk crumpled, clutching his arm in pain. The others, seeing this, sobered up a bit and rushed at her, but Shen Qingju held her own against them all, even overpowering the disorganized drunks. I crossed my arms, commenting, I thought Shen Qingju was just strong, but her agility was impressive. She had the skill of a master. Even without my help, she could handle these guys with ease. In less than a minute, Shen Qingju effortlessly floored them all. Truly a spectacle. I gave a sly smile, murmuring meaningfully to myself. This didn't seem like a coincidence, more like a staged show of strength. The drunks begged for mercy, then scattered like frightened birds. Shen Qingju ignored them, walked back to me, and asked as if nothing had happened, Muje, can you drive? Seeing me nod, she handed me the car keys. I'm tired from driving all day. You take the wheel. I glanced at the Bentley logo on the keys. This is an expensive car. You're okay with me driving it? What's there to worry about? If it gets damaged, well, fix it, she said nonchalantly as I opened the passenger door, making a gesture saying, Princess, please get in. Thank you, Shen Qingju. She sat in the passenger seat as we drove out of the lot. I teased, who would thought? Our comrade Qingju isn't just beautiful, but also quite the fighter, pretty impressive. She rubbed her temples, eyes closed. Don't worry, I won't resort to domestic violence. I never expected she'd steer the conversation to domestic violence. and solemnly vow not to harm me. Something about this felt off. I'm not worried about domestic violence. I tugged at my lips saying, instead of spending all that money, why not just transfer it to me directly? Shen Qingju froze slightly, opened her eyes looking at me saying you saw through it. Do I look that foolish? You went to all this trouble to stage that scene. Wasn't it just to show me who's boss? Caught out, Shen Qingju looked a bit embarrassed, bit her lip and said sorry. I was surprised Shed apologized so directly. She glanced at me, pouting saying sorry again. This was the first time I'd seen a woman apologize so readily, especially since this woman was a generous rich lady. What shocked me more was my phone used for navigation suddenly popping up a notification. Gold coin bunny transferred 8,888 yuan to you. Why'd you suddenly send me money? I'm apologizing with cash, she said, clutching her phone. Worried you'd think my verbal apology lacked sincerity. Her actions made me laugh, saying, Shen Qing, is this how you always are with friends? She hummed lightly, saying you really have superpowers, doing whatever you please. I laughed and groaned. It's not exactly doing whatever I please, she corrected earnestly, saying it's just that they like it. And I find this way more direct and convenient. Mu Zhe, are you still mad? She asked, unsure of my expression. Should I still be mad? She nodded, satisfied, saying it's good you're not mad. I let out a long breath. Shen Qingju, I finally understand. A comment I saw on Douyin. What comment? She asked, puzzled, saying into busy with work. To scroll Douyin much. I laughed, saying if I could marry a wife like you, I'd be happy even driving a luxury car and living in a mansion. Shen Qingju paused to think, looked at me driving the Bentley, and asked seriously, haven't you already done that? It does seem like it. I glanced at Shen Qingju beside me, then down at the logo on the steering wheel, feeling a bit awkward. I really was driving her luxury car and living in her mansion, even if this experience card lasted only a month. Shen Qingju's lips curved slightly. You focus on being beautiful, and I'll handle earning money to support us. Nothing wrong with that. But coming from her, it sounded so strange. This woman always managed to say the most shocking things. Shen Qingju, are you serious? She gazed at the moonlight outside, saying without hesitation, of course. Supporting you doesn't cost much anyway. I earn it back in less than a day. I was curious. How did you and your ex-boyfriend break up? For some reason, this woman with her quirky mindset had barely captured my interest. I especially wanted to know why her ex-boyfriend would let go of such a fascinating woman. Shen Qingju looked at me confused, shaking her head, saying, ex-boyfriend? I've never had a boyfriend. I've never even been in love. My expression lit up with astonishment. My heart surged with shock. In this era where love is a fleeting commodity, someone who'd never been in love, that's rarer than a pander. Shen Qingju thought I didn't believe her, explaining that with her busy work schedule, she had no time for romance. Her words silenced me. Seeing me quiet, she brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, asking what I said wrong. Why aren't you talking? My silence was deafening. It wasn't that I didn't want to speak, but I didn't know how to respond. At that moment, I finally understood. Her odd behavior when we first met now seemed perfectly reasonable. It fit her character completely. I didn't know how to judge this treasure of a rich woman. The car stayed quiet for nearly 10 minutes before I broke the silence. You'd better tell me what I need to watch out for when meeting your parents. Most people might feel nervous meeting parents, but I was brimming with anticipation, eager to know what Shen Qingju's family was like. Shen Qingju thought for a moment, saying tomorrow with my mom. There might be some minor challenges. Don't worry, I'll protect you. She used challenges instead of difficulties. After all, I'd taken her precious daughter. Some hostility was inevitable, but because of that, I realized another issue. So the marriage alliance is on your father's side. Yes, Shen Qingju's brow furrowed. Things are a bit complicated there. You'll need to be careful when we go. She emphasized complicated heavily. I could tell. This good-tempered rich woman harbors deep resentment toward her father's side, even a touch of hatred. There's something I've been wanting to ask. I studied her expression saying, "Ask away. It's just the two of us here. Your family is already so wealthy. Why is your father forcing you into this marriage? Taking the family to the next level shouldn't matter more than his daughter's happiness." This was a major puzzle in my mind. Such an outstanding woman, not only unloved, but forced into a marriage alliance to secure more benefits for the family. Shen Qingji's eyes flashed with bitterness. Because I have a half-sister my age, her resentment and discontent poured out, not directed at me, but at that half-sister. My eyes lit up, catching the scent of a juicy story. Her words were brief, but packed with information. Shen Qingju clenched her fists, her face cold as ice, saying, "If they don't marry me off, how can she inherit the family business?" Both daughters of her father. Her sister was the family's darling, while she was treated differently, never favored by her father, let alone cherished, and being the same age. My eyes narrowed. Meaning, I caught the key point in her words. After her parents' divorce and remarriage, having a half-sister was normal. But the issue was exactly just as you're thinking. Shen Qingji's fingers traced the car window, smiling bitterly, saying, "Mujie, am not afraid of you laughing. My father cheated when my mom was pregnant with me, cheating during pregnancy. So while her mother was carrying her, he was unfaithful. No wonder this good-natured woman turned icy when speaking of this, with an air of unapproachability. Now he wants to sell me his ex-wife's burden of a daughter to gain more leverage for his precious daughter. And my betrothed in the capital, if I'm not mistaken, was likely arranged by my stepmother." Shen Qingju sighed deeply, staring out the window. A single tear rolled down her cheek, falling onto her long skirt. I'd heard wealthy families were full of drama, and now it seemed all too true. As I drove toward Yushui Bay, I said, if that's the case, the next step is probably coming for me. Turning to look at her forlorn figure, I gently wiped the tear from her exquisite face. Shen Qingju flinched slightly, but didn't pull away, letting me do so. I saw it clearly. My appearance, or rather the appearance of her contract husband, disrupted her father and stepmother's plans, harmed their interests. So chances are they'd come for me next, to steer the derailed plan back to their desired path. Suddenly I understood why she offered such a generous deal to her contract husband, not because she's foolishly rich, but because she knew full well her husband's role was a dangerous one. Surviving these days wasn't guaranteed. If you're scared, there's still time to back out. Shen Qingju turned away. Since I'd realized this, she didn't want to hide it anymore, handing the choice back to me. "If you want to leave, I can book you the earliest flight tonight to get you out of this mess." I smiled faintly. It's probably too late to back out now. Pausing for a moment, admiring her stunning beauty, I teased, "Besides, how could I abandon such a gorgeous wife?" I knew full well, the moment we got that certificate, I was already into deep to stay neutral. My name was likely already on the Shen family's hit list. Running away was pointless, and I'd never planned to run. Missing out on something this exciting would be a shame. Now that I was in the game, I had to play it well, especially with Shen Qingju, this wealthy and beautiful woman by my side. Why not enjoy it? Hearing my teasing words, Shen Qingju didn't get upset, just rolled her eyes at me. "Smooth talker, I didn't expect you to be so good at charming girls." For some reason, not only was she not angry, she seemed to enjoy it. This was the first time someone had chosen her so firmly. My fingers tapped the Maserati logo on the steering wheel. I laughed, saying, "I always remember. The language of steel wool has a language." My words made Shen Qingju blink, looking at me utterly confused. Clearly this was beyond her knowledge, though she's usually busy with work. As a young woman, she hadn't heard of such a thing. This sparked her curiosity. "What's the language of steel wool?" She tilted her head, intrigued. I grinned, saying, "It means resilience and strength, just like you, tough yet polished." Shen Qingju laughed softly. "You really know how to spin a story, but I like it." Her smile was genuine, a rare moment of warmth. I glanced at her, thinking, this woman was more complex than I'd imagined, a blend of strength and vulnerability. I knew she was familiar with the language of various flowers, but the language of steel wool was something Shed never heard of. I snapped my fingers, giving a playful smile, saying, "Of course." Shen Qingju stared at my confident expression, thought for 3 seconds, then shook her head. "So what's the language of steel wool?" Her curiosity about this unknown thing was palpable. She was eager to uncover the truth. "Resilience and prosperity," I said, suppressing a smirk. Spouting nonsense with a straight face, pretending to hold something in my hand, and waving it before her eyes. Sharp as Shen Qingju was, she caught on immediately. Watching my comical gesture, she burst out laughing with a soft chuckle. Her tense face instantly softened. I admired her radiant, smiling expression, and couldn't help but blurt out that a beauty like her looked best when she smiled. Tears like pear blossoms in the rain were too heartbreaking. Though my words sounded like flattery, they came from the heart. I'd seen all sorts of beautiful women who approached me either for status or to take me down, all driven by fleeting interests. But Shen Qingju's smile was as pure as she was saying a man's mouth is full of deceit. Shen Qingju pursed her lips and gave me a sidelong glance. She tilted her head slightly, avoiding my gaze. It was clear this was likely her first time being so directly complimented by a man at such close range. She was a bit shy. Noticing her bashfulness, my playful side took over. I leaned on the steering wheel, teasing, "Big sister, I don't want to work hard anymore," hoping to provoke a reaction. But considering Shed never been in a relationship, I feared scaring this shy rich woman, and held back. Shen Qingju's cheeks flushed. She bit her lip, saying if I performed well, she could offer me a long-term contract. As she spoke, she kept staring out the window, hiding her shyness. "Does it come with benefits and insurance?" I knew when to stop, and didn't tease further. After all, it was only our first day. I needed to keep some sense of propriety, and with a month ahead, there'd be plenty of chances to tease. "You're quite demanding." Shen Qingju turned her head, laughing. "Let's see if you can pass my father's test first." "A test, big sister?" I asked, saying, "Of course." Shen Qingju raised an eyebrow, saying proudly that she was a profit-driven businesswoman and a cold-hearted woman. If I wasn't useful, Shed replaced me. Maybe I made her feel at ease. As she impulsively poked my chest, "Then it'll make sure you don't need to replace your husband." I gently held her finger, a sly smile curling my lips. The car's atmosphere turned undeniably intimate. Smooth talker Shen Qingju quickly pulled her finger back, giving me a look. I relished her flustered reaction. Shen Qingju smoothed her hair, slightly covering her embarrassment, saying, "Let's get out. Rest well tonight. We're meeting my mom at 3 tomorrow afternoon." I nodded, dropping my playful demeanor, and got out to open her door. Shen Qingju looked at the gentlemanly, amusing me, letting out a long sigh, thinking to herself, "Mouge, hoping I'd be lucky enough to survive until then." And today was the day to meet her parent. That afternoon, we drove to Wadong Manor in the suburbs. Qingju pointed to an empty spot, saying to park there. After parking, I looked around, noticing the vast manor was eerily quiet. I couldn't help asking if the whole manor belonged to her family, since the wife. Qingju shook her head, saying no. The entire manor belongs to my mother. She prefers peace and quiet. I gave a thumbs up. Truly wealthy and imposing, fitting my stereotype of the rich. Qingju smiled, but her tone grew serious, saying instead of teasing, "You better think about how to handle my mom." I probed, asking, "My mother-in-law won't be too hard on her son-in-law, right?" Qingju frowned, saying it's hard to say. Since the divorce, my mom's been a bit misandristic. Misandristic, then am walking into a trap. I didn't mind, since I was just going through the motions. If you can't handle it, I'll step in. Though Qingju said this, her brow remained furrowed. I saw her worrying and laughed, saying, "Don't worry. You've spent so much on me. I've got the professionalism for this." Qingju rolled her eyes, saying I was always teasing her. We walked side by side into the inner garden, to a spot beneath a wadong tree, where an elegant middle-aged woman was brewing tea. It was Qingju's mother, Liu Ziyan. Qingju introduced, saying, "Mom, this is your son-in-law, Mouge." When Liu Ziyan looked up at me, I felt a clear chill and disdain. But when she saw my face clearly, her gaze softened unexpectedly. I greeted politely saying Ms. Liu hello. Liu Zion smiled saying since you and Juju are married, calling me Ms. Liu is too formal, isn't it? I wasn't sure what she meant, tentatively asking if I should call her mom. Good son-in-law Liu Zion's smile widened. I looked at Qingju puzzled. She shook her head equally clueless. This mother-in-law didn't play by the rules. At that moment, even Shen Qingju couldn't read her mother or what she was planning. This was too unusual. For so many years, Shen Qingju had never seen her mother be kind to any man, let alone smile at me. For this to happen with her mother was simply unthinkable. Liu Zion didn't know what we were imagining, just invited us to sit and have tea. Mu Jie, which Mu is your name? She asked, though she was fairly certain. She wanted to confirm. I blinked, answering truthfully the Mu of peace and tranquility. I hadn't met parents before, but I knew a thing or two. Yet Liu Zion asking me to call her mom right away and questioning which Mu I used left me utterly confused. Shouldn't she ask about the Jie in my name? The Mu of peace and tranquility, what a fine name. Liu Zion praised, saying I was handsome too. A perfect match for our Juju. Her gaze shifted from me to Qingju, nodding as if we were a match made in heaven. I was dumbfounded. This was her idea of a challenge. This was misandry. I'd prepared for relentless grilling, but never expected this. This mother-in-law was the opposite of what Shen Qingju described. Completely different. Liu Zion was clearly pleased with me, though I couldn't understand why. I forced a smile, saying she was too kind. It's me who's lucky to marry Qingju. Marrying someone as wonderful as Qingju is a blessing earned over 3 lifetimes. Since I couldn't figure it out, I chose the simplest, most direct flattery. Who doesn't love compliments? What a humble young man, Liu Zion praised again, but her tone shifted, her gaze sharpening, asking if my parents were in good health. You two married so quickly. Our families haven't even met yet. I felt Liu Zion was probing something, as if she'd seen through my identity, but I answered honestly, saying my father passed away long ago. My mother and sister are in the capital. I only shared half the truth, omitting the key details. Liu Zion asked if my father had passed. Yes, a long time ago. After my reply, Liu Zion nodded, satisfied, and didn't press further. She pulled a bank card from somewhere, placed it on the table, and slid it toward me. I watched her movements silently, only speaking when the card stopped before me, asking Mom, "What's this for?" This scene felt oddly familiar, like those melodramatic tycoon dramas on TV. I could even picture the next scene. Take this 5 million and leave my daughter. Never see her again. But Liu Zion wasn't so theatrical. Her every gesture was graceful. I never imagined I'd face such a moment. At that moment, I was oddly excited, eager to experience this soap opera plot firsthand. Seeing my puzzled look, Liu Zion said gently, "Don't misunderstand. This isn't to make you leave my daughter." Disappointment flickered in my eyes. Was my chance to live a dramatic plot slipping away? But my disappointment didn't last long. Liu Zion's next words completely shattered my expectations. Liu Zion said calmly, "This is your dowry." Just 7 words, but they hit like a thunderbolt. I never dreamed this would be a dowry. More precisely, I never imagined as a man I'd receive a dowry. Swallowing hard, calming my shock, I pointed at myself, asking, "A dowry for me?" Liu Zion nodded, saying, "Exactly. Juju is my only daughter. Since you've married her, a dowry is only natural. Per Linen's custom, it's 888 million. Don't think it's too little." 888 million, my eyes nearly popped out. If it were any other money, I might not even blink at such a sum. After all, Zhu sends me 10 million monthly, which I haven't even touched. But this was a dowry for me. Only now did I truly grasp where Shen Qingju's extravagance came from. It was clearly inherited. I waved my hand, saying it's not too little, not at all. Others fight over a 280,000 dowry, and here I was getting this amount. How could I complain? Truly the best mother-in-law in the country. Liu Zion turned to Wang Ma standing behind her, saying, "Wang Ma, fetch that property deed." Wang Ma nodded and headed inside. To retrieve the deed Liu Zion requested, 5 minutes later, Liu Zion took the deed and handed it to me. I tugged at my lips asking Mom, "Are you just piling on surprise after surprise? You're overwhelming me." Other mothers-in-law would skin their son-in-law, but this one was giving me everything. Cash and now a property deed, Liu Zion said lightly. A commercial property in Linens, CBD over 1,000 square meters. A wedding gift for you both. You can collect rent from it. Consider it my gift for our first meeting. Though Liu Zion said it was for me and Shen Qingju, her meaning was clear. It was really just for me. Collecting rent felt like a dream. I felt like I wasn't meeting a parent, but starring in a sci-fi blockbuster. This is too much. I can't accept it. I waved my hand saying the 888 million was enough, though I didn't know the exact value of the CBD property. It was worth at least $1 billion, maybe tens of billions. In Leiden, a new top-tier city, where land is worth its weight in gold. Even in dreams, people wouldn't dare imagine this. Liu Zion said to take it. There's no returning a gift from an elder. She stood up and pressed the deed into my hands, leaving no room for refusal. Shen Qingju signaled me to accept it. I had no choice. This mother-daughter duel left me no option but to take it. Thank you, Mom, you're too kind. Liu Zion said, since you've married Juju, we're family. But as her mother, I must say a few words. I blinked saying, please go ahead. I'm all ears. I was now terrified Liu Zion would pull out more to give me. My precious daughter is always busy with work. Take good care of her. Liu Zion said, holding Shen Qingju's hand. She forgets to eat when she's caught up in work. That's bad for her stomach in the long run. I nodded looking at Shen Qingju. It'll take good care of Qingju and won't let her suffer a bit. Liu Zion, satisfied with my response, said good. That's all I needed to hear. She stood pulling Shen Qingju up, placed her hand in mine saying, my precious daughter is now in your hands. I was caught off guard by Liu Zion's gesture, but since I was holding Shen Qingju's hand, I had to play along. You can rest assured. Liu Zion said, all right, we've met. I have an appointment, so I won't keep you. Having achieved her goal and gotten my response, Liu Zion promptly issued her dismissal. Shen Qingju, hearing this, breathed a sigh of relief. Still holding my hand, she said to Liu Zion, Mom, well, head out then. But as we turned to leave hand in hand, Liu Zion called out to me, Mujie, before you go, a piece of advice. Listen to your mother-in-law and you'll prosper. I said I would. As Shen Qingju and I disappeared from the courtyard, Wang Ma approached Liu Zion, puzzled, asking, Madam, weren't you going to test his mettle? Why this? The he in Wang Ma's words was obviously me. Regarding my marriage to Shen Qingju, Liu Zion and Wang Ma knew it was a sham. Liu Zion had planned to stress test me to see if her daughter's fake husband could handle the Shen family's pressure. After all, Shen Qingju was her biological daughter. She didn't want to see her used as a bargaining chip for the Shen family's gain. Wang Ma couldn't understand why her madam changed so drastically upon seeing me. But Liu Zion looked confident. She sipped her Westlake Longjing tea, saying why she acted so out of character, being so kind to him, giving both money and a shop. Yes, a man living off Miss Wealth. Does he deserve such treatment? Wang Ma's words dripped with disdain for me. In her eyes, aside from my good looks, I was utterly worthless. Liu Zion smiled faintly, saying, you don't understand. This Mujie isn't ordinary. His background is far deeper than we think. Wang Ma frowned, still confused. Madam, are you saying he's hiding something? Liu Zion nodded. His surname Mu and his face remind me of someone from the capital. Someone untouchable. Wang Ma gasped, realizing, you mean he's connected to that Mu family? Liu Zion didn't confirm or deny, just sipped her tea saying, whether it's true or not, we'll see. But for now, he's the best shield for Juju. I had neither wealth nor prominent family ties. Not only could I not help her family's young miss, I even relied on her to support me. Liu Zion burst into hearty laughter. Setting down her teacup, she asked Wang Ma meaningfully, what did he say his surname was? Mu, madam, is there something special about that surname? The surname Mu itself isn't special. But what if he's a Mu from the capital? Liu Zion tapped the table 3 times with her fingertip. one of the four great families of the capital, the Mu family. How could that be possible? Wang Ma's face was etched with disbelief. Liu Xian continued. The moment I saw him, I thought he bore a striking resemblance to the man in the old photo in my father's study. At least 7 or 8 parts similar. That was a photo of my father with Shen Qingzhi's grandfather. So Liu Xian had deliberately asked about my parents' health. Though he restrained his aura, a careful observer could tell he came from a prominent family. Do you think an ordinary person's child could be so at ease in my presence? Not to mention his name is Mu Jie, the same as the Mu family's heir. In the car, I handed the bank card and property deed to Shen Qingju. Your mom gave these to me. Why are you giving them to me? They belong to their rightful owner. They're too valuable. I can't accept them. I felt it wasn't appropriate. Since we're not truly husband and wife, Shen Qingju pushed them back, saying since mom gave them to you, keep them, it's your dowry. In the end, Shen Qingju transferred me 18,888 yuan, saying it was a reward for my good performance today, telling me to treat myself to something nice. That evening I wandered aimlessly down the street, pondering what to eat, when I sensed a presences following me at a distance. I glanced back and smirked, thinking this was interesting. They trailed me the whole way. It seemed they were looking for a chance to ambush me. Their intentions I could guess with my eyes closed. They were waiting for me to reach an easy spot to throw a sack over me, but I didn't care about their plans. With nothing else to do, I'd play along. It was like an appetizer. I pretended not to notice, quickened my pace, slightly walking along the river bank. I overheard their low conversation, telling each other to stop ogling women and to hurry up and follow. What's the rush? We won't lose him. It's crowded here. We can't make a move if we're too close. Might as well enjoy the view of those long legs. Those curves are a feast for the eyes. Idiot, once we take care of that kid, do we need to just look? With that person's payment, we can hire a dozen escorts and party for 10 days and nights. Half an hour later, I circled to a secluded riverbank in the suburbs. The area was sparsely populated, with fewer and fewer cameras. After 5 minutes of walking, no one else passed by. I suddenly vanished from their sight, silently circling behind them. Are you two looking for me? I asked playfully. They jumped startled, whirling around. I crossed my arms, grinning, saying, it's me, the guy you've been tailing. You knew we were following you. One of them asked. Bingo, you got it. Why else would I lead you here on purpose? I smiled, satisfied, saying I'd check the area. Hardly anyone comes through. And most importantly, no cameras. Clever kid, you lured us here on purpose. The other said. But to take us down, you'll have to ask if our knives agree. They pulled out switchblades and lunged at me. I smiled calmly, easily dodging their attacks, subduing one with a single move. The other, seeing this, went weak-kneed, stumbling back. I stepped toward him, saying his hands were shaking. He shouldn't bother with the knife. I flashed in front of him, grabbing his throat and lifting him. He begged me not to kill him. Please don't kill me. I don't want to die. He pleaded desperately. So spineless, I said with disdain, tossing him to the ground, stepping on his head. I said I wouldn't kill him, but he had to tell me who sent him. It was the Shen family's eldest miss. She paid 500,000 to take your life, he said, trembling. The Shen family's eldest miss? Shen Qingju, I asked, frowning. That didn't seem like her style. He shook his head in panic, saying no. It's the Shen family's eldest miss, Shen Zueji. Hearing Shen Zueji's name, I paused. Shen Qingju had mentioned a half-sister. Could it be her? I felt a twinge of doubt. Why did they call Shen Zueji the eldest miss? In the Shen family's eyes, was Shen Zueji their only cherished daughter? Did they not even see Shen Qingju as family? I got married yesterday, and they sent someone after me today. That's some efficiency, I sneered. Someone as reckless as Shen Zueji was a first for me. I didn't know if she despised Shen Qingju, or was just that confident. Jiaozi added, trembling, not just you. Shen Qingju too. My heart sank at his words. It seemed Shen Zueji's ambitions were grand, planning to take us both down. Keep talking, I commanded. Jiaozi said nervously. I heard the Shen miss plans to drug Shen Qingju. Well played. I sneered, what a loving family. No need to guess. I could figure out Shen's wedgie's plan. Drugging Shen Qingju at a banquet. To ruin her reputation. With media likely waiting downstairs at the hotel, I clapped my hands, looking calmly at Zhao Zi. As everyone knows, I don't leave loose ends. Zhao Zi pointed at me, his face ashen. I laughed, picking up his switchblade, whispering in his ear, do you think I'd leave roots unpulled? I drove the blade into his heart. I always believe in eliminating threats completely, never leaving trouble behind. After dealing with Zhao Zi, I dialed an unmarked number. Moments later, a woman in uniform appeared. Within 5 minutes, I want Shen Qingju's exact location. I ordered. Juke looked stunned, saying, young Master Mu, do you know what you're saying? I'm here to monitor you, not to take your orders. I said coldly, Juke, without my consent. Do you think anyone in this world could monitor me? Or does national security think they have the strength and authority? Juke paled because I spoke the truth. Without my and the Mu family's consent, Juke alone, or even her superiors, had no right to monitor me. 3 minutes and 21 seconds left. I glanced at the time, saying, seize the chance. Don't make this ugly, young Master Mu. This breaks protocol. Juke tried to resist, saying, protocol? You're talking to me about protocol. Can that restrict me? I scoffed, saying, rules are made by the strong for the weak to follow. How could they bind me? If anything happens to Shen Qingju, I wouldn't mind returning to the capital and dismantling national security, giving you a thorough overhaul. I threatened coldly. You know that's child's play for me. She's at the Dahao Hotel, 28th floor, room 707. Juke finally caved. That drug only needs 2 hours in ice water to neutralize. A wise person knows when to yield. Juke, you're not bad. I nodded, satisfied. Any responsibility I'll take fully. Deal with these 2 bodies while you're at it. I pointed casually at the corpses. I trust national security's capabilities. They won't disappoint me. Juke nodded helplessly. In this vast land, I was likely the only one bold enough to order national security around. I raised my hand, tearing the air lightly. A rift appeared instantly. In leaving, I waved, stepping into the rift and vanishing. Juke stared dumbfounded, utterly shocked. She knew I was strong, but not this strong. No wonder I could seize destiny from foreign gods. Meanwhile, in a room, Shen's wedgie leaned against a sofa by the window, swirling a glass of red wine, gazing at the moonlight outside. Her subordinate Wang Yuying reported respectfully, saying, Miss, everything is arranged upstairs. Well done, Shen's wedgie said calmly, a playful smile curling her lips. 3 muscle-bound men dosed with aphrodisiacs. Shen Qingju, enjoy yourself. Thinking of her flawless plan, Shen's wedgie couldn't help but feel smug. Once Shen Qingju entered that room, even if she realized something was wrong, it would be too late. As her half-sister, Shen's wedgie knew her sister's skills were formidable, so she chose a special aphrodisiac, one that amplified desire, while paralyzing parts of her nervous system, rendering her unable to resist. With 3 brutes by her side, it was dry tinder meeting a raging flame. In room 707 on the 28th floor, Shen Qingju had locked herself in the bathroom, barricading the door. The door shook with relentless pounding, accompanied by the frenzied voices of 3 muscle-bound men. Under the aphrodisiac's effect, they were consumed with insatiable hunger. Shen Qingju desperately dialed for help, but the calls wouldn't connect. Her body grew weak, a fire rising within her, burning hotter by the second. Soon enough, desire would overrun her rationality. The 3 men outside couldn't hold back and started trying to break down the bathroom door. They threatened, saying, you filthy woman, you'd better come out willingly. Let us set our fire, or when we get in and grab you, we won't let you off easily. Shen Qingju slumped against the wall, felt utterly hopeless. Am I really going to fall here today? A wave of despair washed over her. She couldn't hold it together and broke into tears. 3 minutes later, the door burst open with a bang. The 3 muscle-bound men advanced, leering. Stay back, don't come closer. Shen Qingju retreated, pleading. Let me go, I can pay you. Name your price. It'll meet your demands. What good is money? Right now, we only want you. Linen's top business beauty. For a night of passion, to ascend the peaks of ecstasy together, the three men rubbed their hands, eyes gleaming as they approached Shen Qingju. Just as one of them was about to touch her, a rift appeared in the air before him. A pair of black shoes slammed into his face. A single kick sent all three flying out of the bathroom. The three enraged scrambled to their feet, ready to charge back. But my movements didn't stop. I flashed before Su Bing like a phantom. Before he could react, I struck his skull with a palm. Su Bing's head burst like a watermelon. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. The screams didn't come from Su Bing, but from the other two witnessing it. They never imagined that a clean-cut guy like me could be so ruthless. Ruthless to a terrifying degree. Crushing a skull with bare hands, the muscle-bound men muttered stunned. Is this guy even human? That was a human head, not a watermelon. Even with a blunt or sharp weapon, a head wouldn't break so easily. Yet I'd done it effortlessly with my hands. The most terrifying part was that not a drop of blood stained me. Despite the splattering gore, it avoided me entirely. Who the hell are you? The tattooed muscle man snapped out of it, demanding answers. In his eyes, I was no longer human. Dead men don't need to know much. I smiled faintly, grabbing the necks of the two men, one in each hand. These to each over 200 pounds, were like feathers in my grip, lifted effortlessly. You really dare kill here? The tattooed man flailed at my hand, his face red as he questioned. If I applied a bit more force, I could snap his neck, or let him suffocate. Killing one is killing. What's to more? My tone was eerily calm. To me, killing was routine. Please don't let us go. The two men began to beg. You think that's possible? With a slight twist of my hands, a crack echoed. The two men still breathing moments ago lost all signs of life. I tossed the bodies aside. Turning to the bathroom, Mu Yunshu was curled up on the floor, her head buried in her knees, trembling uncontrollably. Mu Yunshu, how are you holding up? I crouched down, gently patting her back, asking softly. Hearing my familiar voice, Mu Yunshu looked up saying, Muje, you're here, and threw herself into my arms, like a fledgling returning to its nest. Feeling my warm, broad embrace, Mu Yunshu could no longer hold back, and sobbed loudly. At that moment, she was no longer the proud ICCEO, but a frightened little girl. I was her greatest support. Mu Yunshu, who had given up hope, never imagined someone would come to her rescue, and so promptly. And that person was her new husband, married just yesterday. In a daze, Mu Yunshu felt the goddess of luck had favored her. And here I let her cling tightly, patting her back gently, saying, don't be afraid. With me here, you'll be fine. I felt an unexpected pang of pity for her. Mu Yunshu nuzzled into my chest like a kitten, sobbing, saying, you know, I was so scared just now, so scared of them. Mu Yunshu was genuinely terrified. The despair and helplessness had overwhelmed her, making her feel suffocated. It's okay. I've handled it. I didn't know what else to say, only continuing to comfort her, perhaps due to the emotional roller coaster, or because I was by her side. Mu Yunshu let down her guard. The restlessness and fire within her spiraled out of control. Muje, kiss me. Mu Yunshu's eyes were red. Her arms deftly wrapped around my neck. Her body's instincts drove her to act. She leaned in to kiss my lips. Faced with such an assertive Mu Yunshu, I was caught off guard. After a brief kiss, Mu Yunshu pulled back from my lips and began tugging at my clothes, saying, I want you. I want you now, Muje.